Schmidt, let me start with Governor Romney.
Well, I think you know that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were a big part of why we have the housing crisis in the nation that we have. And we've had this discussion before. Speaker Gingrich was hired by Freddie Mac to promote them, to influence other people throughout Washington, encouraging them to not to dismantle these two entities. I think that was an enormous mistake. I think instead we should have had a whistleblower and not a horn tooter. He should have stood up and said, look, these things are a disaster. This is a crisis. He should have been anxiously telling the American people that these entities were causing a housing bubble that would cause a collapse that we've seen here in Florida and around the country. And are they a problem today? Absolutely. They're offering mortgages, again, to people who can't possibly repay them. We're creating another housing bubble, which will hurt the American people. The right course for our housing industry is to get people back to work so they can buy homes again. We have 9.9% unemployment in Florida. It's unthinkable. 18% real unemployment here. Get people back to work. We'll get people into homes, get the foreclosures out of the system, let people get into homes, rent properties if necessary, and get America's housing industry growing again.
Speaker Gingrich.
Let me start by saying Florida is one of the 2 or 3 most hard-hit states on foreclosures. How many of you know somebody who's had a house foreclosed? Just raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. The governor has cheerfully been attacking me inaccurately, and he knows it. The contracts we released from Freddie Mac said I would do no consulting. Wrote in, no lobbying, none. But there's a more interesting story. We began digging in after Monday night because, frankly, I'd had about enough of this. We discovered, to our shock, Governor Romney owns shares of both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Governor Romney made $1 million off of selling some of that. Governor Romney owns share and has an investment in Goldman Sachs, which is today foreclosing on Floridians. So maybe Governor Romney, in the spirit of openness, should tell us how much money he's made off of how many households that have been foreclosed by his investments. But let's be clear about that.
Let's respond. First of all, my investments are not made by me. My investments for the last 10 years have been in a blind trust, managed by a trustee. Secondly, the investments that they've made, we've learned about this as we made our financial disclosure, have been in mutual funds and bonds. I don't own stock in either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. There are bonds that the investor has held through mutual funds. And Mr. Speaker, I know that sounds like an enormous revelation, but have you checked your own investments? You also have investments through mutual funds that also invest in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Right.
Let me finish. I've got more time. Let me just continue. There's a big difference between buying like U.S. savings bonds and getting a return. That's not taking money out of the United States. That's loaning money to the United States. And what my trustee did is he loaned money to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And they got paid interest, of course, just like if you buy U.S. savings bonds. But what the Speaker did was to work as a spokesman to promote Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, to protect them from those people that wanted to take them down. He got paid $1.6 million to do that. He said his first contract indicated there'd be no lobbying. But his second contract didn't have that prescription taken out of it. And so you have to ask yourself, why is that? What he was doing was clearly promoting Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, in this case Freddie Mac, to the tune of $1.6 million. That is one of the reasons we're in the trouble we're in.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, you'll notice that the governor wasn't aware of the ad he was running. He's not aware of the investments that were being made in his name.
Of course I can't. That's a blind trust.
And to compare my investments with his is like comparing a tiny mouse with a giant elephant. The fact is that there is a very substantial question. You didn't give any instructions to say, gee, let's not do this or let's not do that. You're very quick to draw the widest possible exaggeration. The fact is, the only time I ever spoke to the Congress about this issue was in July of 2008. The New York Times reported it. I told the Republicans in the House, vote no, do not give them any money. They need to be reformed. And in answer to the question earlier, I would break each of them up into 5 or 6 separate units, and over a 5-year period, I would wean them from all federal sponsorship because we need to get away from those gigantic systems.
Let me bring Congressman Paul, then Senator Santorum.